Welcome to Goshen Prepping. We're glad you're here. When we talk about all the saber rattling and talking points and all the statements said by not even just this administration, but anybody in the government right now between us and China and Taiwan, we seem to get conflicting results. However, I implore you, please stay with this video because the point I'm going to make with this shows you that there's no conflicting results at all. There's no conflicting talk, and the ramifications of what's coming are huge. And we start off with this article about Blinken calls China the most serious long-term threat in world order. He says Beijing's vision would move us away from universal values that have sustained so much of the world's progress. He continues, China is the only country with both the intent to reshape the international order and, increasingly, the economic, diplomatic, military, and technological power to do it. However, he said Beijing's vision will move us away from the universal values that have sustained so much of the world's progress over the past 75 years. We don't seek to block China from its role as a major power, nor to stop China or any other country for that matter from growing their economy or advancing the interest of the people. But we will defend and strengthen the international law, agreements, principles, and institutions that maintain peace and security, protect the rights of individuals and sovereign nations, and make it possible for all countries, including the U.S. and China, to coexist and cooperate. So you can see right off the bat that Blinken and the administration is all on board with China growing, becoming this superpower. And it's interesting as far as this administration goes, obviously including Blinken, that their view of China is, as long as they play ball, as long as they do everything according to international law, we're fine. And they even talk about as far as like the rights of the people. And it's interesting how China uses, practically speaking, slave labor to try to put out so many products. And of course, the United States buys it. And of course, I wonder if that's one of the reasons why he's putting this out, because you know what? The United States loves China buying all their crap. But there's more to this. And even more so recently, right in the face of what Biden says, Blinken tells Xi Jinping the U.S. does not support Taiwan independence after a meeting to quell tensions. You probably saw this in the news. He continues, the U.S. holds a one China policy and does not support Taiwanese independence, but is concerned about the provocative actions along the Taiwan Strait. Okay, and with this, here's the key point I want to put out. On the issue of sanctions, he told Chinese officials that the U.S. was not attempting to contain China's economic growth, but is trying to guard specific technologies critical to national security. Keep this in mind. Because what we see is a lot of Chinese saber rattling. I don't think it's just saber rattling. I think they have every intent to invade Taiwan. In the United States, even though Biden continuously says, oh, we'll defend you, Taiwan, Blinken is saying otherwise. So that takes us to the point of today's video. We've mentioned this before. Chinese nationals crossing U.S. border with really disturbing intentions, experts warn. The U.S. Border Patrol records more than 200,000 encounters along the border in May. There are certain Chinese coming that are really disturbing, and this should alarm you. Packs of Chinese males, military age, unattached to family groups, pretending not to speak English. These are probably saboteurs who are coming in on the first day of war with Asia. Last week, there were 10,000 plus Chinese nationals that have been apprehended in the fiscal year of 2023. It's a massive 300% increase from the year prior. But again, we mentioned this before, because here's the interesting part. Blinken is saying, you know what, we want China to grow. We want China to grow. We're not going to stop you if you invade Taiwan, is what Blinken is literally saying. At the same time, Biden is allowing a ridiculous amount of migrants coming across the border. And we're not talking about just Mexican families trying to find a better life. We're talking about Chinese and, by the way, Russian nationals by the truckloads, thousands and thousands of them coming across who are military aged, pretend they don't speak English, coming into our country. So what is this setting us up for? A Texas judge issues warning to all Americans a year after declaring the border invasion. And from the Committee of Homeland Security, there's a safe assumption China, Russia, other adversaries want to exploit the southwest border crisis. In 2021, they reported 4,100 encounters of Russian citizens along the border. In 2022, it went up to 21,000. In 2023, 33,000. In the first 3 months of alone of 2023, 9,700 from China. Okay, so where is all this leading to? Because we see on one hand the Biden administration saying, no, China, you can't invade Taiwan. On the other hand, we see Blinken saying, no, we actually appreciate and encourage the one China policy, and we will not stop them from invading. They see problems as far as international law, and I think that's part of it too. But then we see ridiculous amount of immigrants coming in the United States who are not immigrants, but Chinese and Russian nationals. It all comes down to this, and here's where it sums up. This administration doesn't hide it, that they love international law, that they love United States shedding off what we endure as far as the Constitution and our way of life and just simply making it another country in the world. And they know that if China invades Taiwan, that militarily speaking, a lot of us in the United States are like, we don't want to deal with this. That's just simply just another police state thing that we're dealing with. You deal it yourself. But if we see a ridiculous amount of saboteurs in the United States, causing the United States to erupt into violence, into chaos, into, who knows, even civil war, it makes it much easier for them to bring us down. In other words, it comes down to this. And again, when I say Biden, I don't mean that crippled old man who can barely walk. I'm talking about the puppeteers who pull his strings, are doing their best to try to make it so our economy, our way of life, our United States, and other first world countries who team with us all collapses, sending us into a Great Depression, sending us into, and this is where we're heading to, a world war. World War III is going to bring us down, and also at the same time bring China down and put it all into one encompassing government around the world. Is that the direction we're heading? It seems to be the case. But you know what? I want your input too. Put it in the comments below. I believe our administration in the United States right now has no interest in maintaining the United States, but yet allows all of these people come in to be able to send up saboteur when the time comes. Right now, they're sending all their test pieces up, and then when the time comes, they'll put them into play, and they're shooting for nothing less than checkmate.